Hello, and welcome to the Little Known Secrets of Paying for College podcast with your host, Brock Jolly. I'm Wendy McConnell. Well, hello, Brock, the college funding coach. How are you?
Hey, Wendy, how's it going? I'm doing great.
It's good to hear. You know, you buttered me up a little bit before we got on this call, so I appreciate that. Please keep it coming every week. I would appreciate that.
Your weekly dose of love and respect.
Flattery will get you everywhere.
That's right.
Okay, so this is episode 2. We're very excited. We went over a lot in episode 1, and we're actually not just about paying for college. It's about unlocking possibilities, because we're gonna be talking about how you can pay for your kids' college. So for families, for communities, and future generations, let's talk about some of those possibilities that we didn't necessarily cover last week, but again, it's about paying more than paying for college.
Yeah, thanks, Wendy. I think you hit the nail on the head. Families, communities, future generations. You think about it, college is just such this awesome opportunity of the ability to launch an individual and become their future self in whatever vision that looks like, right? You've got this, it's sort of like a high school kid. They get asked over and over and over, where are you going to go to college? What are you going to major in? And then shortly thereafter, who are you going to marry? When are you going to have kids? I mean, all these sort of life questions.
How are you going to pay for college for those kids?
Yeah. And it's all full circle there, right? So the idea, though, is if you think about college, it is an enormous opportunity for a young person to decide who they want to be, what they want to do, what's important to them. And if we talk to counselors talk all the time about fit, right? Geographic fit, social fit, academic fit, etc. And it's really an opportunity for a young person to be a bit introspective and think about, like, what do I really want to do? Where do I want to go to college? And there's a great book that is titled "Where You Go Is Not Who You'll Be." But I think at a certain level, it's an opportunity for someone to say, what do I want my life to look like? And how hard do I want to work? And what do I want to study? And who do I want to study alongside or with? And sort of make some pretty big life decisions. Now, not everybody's going to take it that seriously. For some, it's, look, I want to go to a great party school and have a really good time and then figure it out after that. And that's okay too.
I know those people.
Yeah. And so it's just what is important for this student, this family. And we've got an opportunity to be a part of that. We've got a front row seat to be there and have this conversation with the family, with the parents, as well as oftentimes with the student, to really craft or mold what their future self looks like.
Yeah, it's interesting, and you got me thinking while you were discussing all of this. I probably wouldn't be the person I am today had I not gone to the college I went to, and I often have said, for what I ended up doing in my career, I didn't need to go to college, but I probably likely wouldn't have ended up where I was had I not gone to college. So, it all comes around full circle, like you said. But yeah, it kind of alters who you are and puts in the priorities that it helps you think. I think it really teaches you how to think.
It's that old adage of you are a combination of the 5 people you surround yourself with, right? So like, you, and especially college, right? Like, think about this. Parents drop an 18-year-old kid off on a college campus, help them unpack the car for an hour, and then say, all right, good luck. We'll see you. We'll see you. We'll see you at Thanksgiving or whatever. And hope it all works out. And, and the kid's off. And so, and I think as parents, you kind of sit there and it's like, man, I really hope that some of that knowledge that we tried to impart on Junior, it actually set in, and, they'll occasionally do some laundry and they might eat 2 or 3-ish meals a day, and they'll go to class and they'll occasionally study, and they'll be able to stick it out for the next 4 years, right? I don't say 4 or 5 or 6, 4 years. And, that's a big moment for a family. And again, you get back to that opportunity. It's like you're going to either sink or swim. And, hopefully you're training. I had an old cross country coach who said, you go to the starting line with two things. It's key people and key experiences, right? Who are the key people who have shaped your life? And what are the key experiences that you've had that also shape your life? And so when you drop that kid off at college, hopefully those have been influential experiences and people, and they're going to make the right decisions, and they're going to swim well, and life's going to be good.
If you don't mind, I want to dive into that a little deeper, because when I went to college, I first went to a community college. So, I commuted, and it wasn't that much of a change
Sure.
from high school, aside from the fact that, it was a further drive, Um, and I think a lot of kids go crazy because it's their first taste of freedom, and it's so much freedom. We're going from living under our parents' house to complete and total, not complete and total, but almost
Right.
complete and total freedom. And people do tend to go a little crazy.
I'll caveat before your question. Like I always tell families, I am not the parenting coach,
Right.
right? I am the college funding
That's
coach.
your job.
Yeah. And look, I mean, I've been doing this long enough, and I've seen that movie before, Wendy, right? Like I agree with you. And it's like, again, every kid's different, right? I've got two kids of my own. I am trying to figure last night at 11 p.m. I was sitting up doing sixth grade math homework, right? Like it's we're all works in progress. We're trying to figure out every day. It takes a village, no doubt. And you just hope that you've done the right things, and that your 18 to 22-year-old child will continue to make a series of good decisions day after day after day. Another coach of mine, this is a business coach, he always said, always make the learning greater than the experience. And so the idea is like, hopefully lots of great things happen to you, and you're wildly grateful for those experiences, and you never get thrown a curveball. Inevitably, that doesn't happen.
Mhm.
Curveballs happen every day. Bad things happen to good people. And so when those bad things happen, what do you learn from it? So that the next time a similar bad thing happens, you've learned from it and you don't make the same decision twice.
Okay. So that's kind of along the lines of, we're using education as a gateway to the American dream. So let's talk about, what your personal belief and how we can connect that to societal impact.
Sure. There's a great quote from Thomas Jefferson that, and by the way, I went to the University of Virginia, so I'm a Thomas Jefferson fan, but his line was something along the lines of, if you expect a nation to be uneducated and free, you expect what never was and never will be, right? The idea is like education is what creates the tenets of democracy and capitalism, and these things that, are sort of at least largely embedded in kind of the American dream and this opportunity conversation. But the challenge is we've got to educate people. And by the way, I'm a big believer that not all education occurs in the classroom,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's like you were talking about. I mean, you learn as much from going and grabbing pizza with your freshman dorm mates as you probably do in psychology 101.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the cool experience. I mean, there's this growing argument now in America that maybe college isn't worth it. And I would say maybe some colleges aren't worth it, right? I mean, is it worth $400,000 or $500,000 a year in 2025 to educate your child? Depends on where they go to school. Depends on what they want to be. I mean, there's a lot of variables in there. I could make an argument for one child, it might make total sense. Another child, if they want to go be an English teacher, maybe it doesn't make sense to spend $500,000 on an education. So, that's really what we try to navigate with families. What's the right strategy and the right decision for your family? And then how do you use education as a tool to really make some educated and informed decisions around what the future is going to look like, both for your family of origin and for this child moving off and flying off, out of the nest into the world, so to speak.
Yeah. Um, it's a shame, and this is not what we're supposed to talk about, but the cost has just become so out of control that it was much more affordable, and there would never be that question then of is it worth it? You know what I mean? Because it was a much more affordable back in my time.
Right. Well, they say too, it's this other adage of like education is wasted on the youth.
Yeah.
I say to my 11-year-old son, soon to be 12, I say to him, I want you to be intellectually curious. And some of that, honestly, Wendy, is me wishing that I had been more intellectually curious at his age. And as I went into college, I see it's so funny. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And I see so many traits in this young man. My daughter's still a little young to be able to see. She's 5. So it's a little hard to tell how she'll emerge, but you start to see characteristics and personality traits. But for my son, he is me, right? And so
That's good and bad.
good and bad, right? And so I try to coach him and parent him in such a way that says, hey, like, learn from the things where I did make mistakes. Always make the learning greater than the experience. Let me help you learn the lessons that I've learned so you don't make the same mistakes. And education is just so important. And the more you can focus on it and create good habits, even at an early age, then when you launch off into college, I think it's going to make a dramatic impact.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about the power of financial literacy. What's the value behind this sort of philosophy?
Yeah, well, that's a big one. So let's unpack it a little bit. Financial literacy really is freedom. And if you think about it again, go back to the comment on uh, educated citizens. And a pretty widely held belief in this country is that our schools do a miserable job of really teaching kids about financial literacy. Right. Back in our day, Wendy, they said, kids graduate high school and they can't even balance a checkbook. Now nobody balances a checkbook because
Thank goodness.
we just solved that problem. We don't have checkbooks anymore.
I just follow my account
That's
online.
right. That's right. And so, but the point is, like, I think some of that is really, really critical. And we've got a guest on a later episode, Tom Henske, who's a really good friend of mine. And he wrote a book called It Makes Total Sense. And it's really designed for having those dining room table conversations with your kids and educating them about saving, spending, budgeting, how, things, okay, you've got a car, you've got to get auto insurance. Here's how auto insurance works. And just all too often in this country and in a lot of countries, we hold these financial conversations as sacrosanct and we don't talk about them at the dinner table. Well, how is a young person ever supposed to get knowledge around what they're supposed to do and how mom and dad deal with money? And, I'm at the point in my career, 25 years as a financial advisor, where now I'm working with second and in some cases, even third generation family members. And it is amazing. Again, apple doesn't fall far from the tree. It is amazing when parents have really good habits. Guess what? Kids have really good habits. Parents have bad habits. Guess what? Kids have bad habits. And so it's helping children to understand and become financially literate. And, the other side of it too is really helping families. If you've got a track record of making bad decisions, you can start making good decisions today, right? It's sort of like, if you're, fat, lazy, and out of shape, that doesn't mean you have to continue to be fat, lazy, and out of shape, right? Like you can make good decisions today. Our past decisions tend to be indicative of what our future decisions will be. And so some of financial planning, and this is broader than college funding, but college funding is involved in that, is creating new or better or improved habits
Mm.
and, creating clarity for a family around where they are today, what's possible for them, right? Again, it comes back to education. How do I, as an advisor, how do our team of advisors educate parents around what their options are, what the possibilities are? Sometimes families sort of look at the sticker price of college and they say, we couldn't do that. Well, what if you could? What if I could show you a way that you could? And now all of a sudden, those light bulbs start to go off of what's possible, understanding the rules, understanding how financial aid works, how scholarships work, how saving strategies can work. Now you are able to make decisions from a position of strength. You're empowered. And Wendy, we try to do that in every single workshop, every webinar, through this podcast, in every interaction that we have with clients, prospective clients, families with whom we have the opportunity to work.
So a lot of times families just believe that if they didn't start saving early, it's too late. What do you have to say about that?
I'm sharing all these nuggets of wisdom that people have coached me on. A former managing partner of mine was a guy by the name of John Dixon, and he always said, if yesterday was the best day to plant a tree, today's the second best day to plant a tree.
Yes.
And we are often guilty of sort of beating ourselves up, right? It's like, okay, you make a New Year's resolution. And oftentimes that New Year's resolution is, I'm going to run a marathon and I'm going to lose 50 pounds. Well, like, if you've never run a 5K, maybe running a marathon is not a real good goal.
A marathon is really long.
Yeah. And so I would just say it's again, health is a great analogy for this, right? And it's like, okay, so where are you today? And where can we make slight tweaks, slight improvements? And if we're talking about college funding, how can we be a little bit more efficient, a little bit more effective? How do we find the leaks, the waste, the inefficiencies in our current planning and recapture them and redeploy those leaks, wastes, and inefficiencies so that we are planning more efficiently, more effectively? We're stretching those dollars further. We understand how financial aid and scholarships and all these different pieces work, and we build a plan not just around college, but around college and retirement and that entire ripple of making one good decision after another. Just like we talked about our 18 to 22-year-old kids doing, it's how do the parents do the same thing, but now with financial planning and college funding decisions rather than, do I study the night before an exam and get a good night of sleep and those type of things.
Start a, semester-long paper 2 days before it's due.
Guilty, been there. Make the learning better than the experience, right?
Yes. So tell me some myths and misconceptions that families have when it comes to paying for college or going to college.
Yeah, well, let's talk about the money first. I think there's two misperceptions, and they are polar opposites of one another. One is families say, well, there's all kinds of money out there for college, right? I go and I visit the college and university, and they tell me that 92% of students get scholarships. And the reality is, at some schools, 92% of families might get scholarships. But the reality is that the average scholarship package is less than $6,000. And if the sticker price is $70,000 or $80,000 or $90,000, $6,000 doesn't go very far.
Right.
The other side of that is that sometimes people say, well, only wealthy families can afford college, or only low-income families get help. And the reality is, and where we start with every single family is drawing that line in the sand of, are you eligible for need-based aid or not? it kind of doesn't matter what the answer to that is, but that's going to dictate the type of strategies that we utilize or recommend with a family. And then secondly, looking at merit. Everybody chases the prestigious school dream, right? I want my kid to go to an Ivy League school or whatever the equivalent may be. And that's great. And that's an awesome dream. And if your kid can get into an Ivy League or a top 25 school, that's amazing. But then the question becomes, okay, first and foremost, most of those top tier schools give no merit money or very little merit money. They only give need-based money. And so if you're not eligible for need-based aid, guess what? You're paying the full freight. And so a conversation oftentimes is there a scenario? And I'll use as an example, the salutatorian of my high school got a full ride, or sorry, got accepted at Harvard and didn't go. And the reason that she didn't go is because she got a full ride scholarship at one of the flagship universities in my home state. And guess what? She went there basically for free. And then she went to Harvard for medical school.
Wow.
And so, and I think, that Harvard diploma still hangs in her medical office. And collectively, the family paid a whole lot less for education. And so it's an art and a science. It's helping families navigate this maze and figuring out, based on finances, based on academic, social, geographic, all these fit pieces of the puzzle, what is right for your family. And I think that's really, it's empowering. Maybe it's a little overwhelming, but we try to really help a family navigate this and again, make one smart decision after the next.
So college planning is a little bit of a hidden opportunity in financial advising.
It is, yeah. So I would tell you, it's interesting. I've studied this stuff for nearly 25 years. And going back to episode 1, when we talked about sort of the origin of the college funding coach, I kept hearing these parents who said, how am I going to pay for my kid's college education? Well, I don't know. I'm 22 years old at the time. I don't have a clue. And so I went and I asked my mentors, the senior partners at my firm, and it was real evident to me that they didn't have a real good strategy. It was almost, throw some money into an account, cross your fingers, hope it all works out. And by the way, Wendy, not much has changed in the financial planning profession over the last 25 years. It's kind of that same approach. It's just the advent of Section 529 plans. Those have become more of the preferred funding mechanism, but there's not a whole lot of rhyme or reason to it. And Fidelity and Gallup and probably others do this study every year, and it consistently says that college funding is the number one financial fear of most American families. And yet, less than 3% of financial advisors truly focus on financial planning. So I would just, a little commercial here, I would tell you, most of the people who come to our workshop, or in fact, most of the people who sit down with our advisors, have existing relationships with some form of financial advisor. But there's a reason why they're coming to our workshops. There's a reason why they're engaging with our organization at the College Funding Coach. And that is they don't have a whole lot of confidence in their existing plan or strategy for funding their children's college education. And I see both ends of it, right? I mean, I had somebody who came to me 2 weeks ago, 3 kids. They've got about $35,000 saved up in accounts that are sort of earmarked for college. And they've got a senior, a sophomore, and a sixth grader. And so, again, haven't done a whole lot of planning up to this point, but if yesterday was the best day to plant a tree, today's the second best day, we can get started. But the current advisor hadn't focused on it because they were so singularly focused on retirement planning. And so, and then the other side of that spectrum is oftentimes we see families where they've done an awesome job of saving money. If every single one of their kids goes to $100,000 a year school. Because one of the challenges with Section 529 plans is if you've got too much money in the 529, because if in that event, if you pull money out for something other than education, you pay tax on the gain plus a 10% penalty.
Mm.
I'd prefer to avoid that. Now, there are some special recently released rules where you can move up to $35,000 during a beneficiary's lifetime to a Roth IRA. There's some cool things that you can do. But again, there's oftentimes just not great planning around that. And, I would tell a family, look, if you've got, I just had this happen too, where I had somebody who was a parent of I think about a 3-year-old, got a big bonus from work. He said, what's the max I can put in the 529 plan? And the answer to that is you can put 5 years worth of $19,000 contributions. I'll do the quick math. That's $95,000. So you can put $95,000 into a 529 plan. And I said, I don't think you should do that. Why? I want to knock out college. I said, look, you've got a 3-year-old. I don't know if they're going to go to college. I don't know where they're going to go to college. I don't know what college is going to cost. I don't know what's going to happen in the market over the course of the next 15 years. I think you should put money towards college. I think you should save that $95,000. I just don't know that I'm recommending that you save it inside of the Section 529 plan for now, right? In other words, we could save it somewhere else, have it grow. And now maybe when that kid is 10 or 12 or 15, if we've got the money saved and we've got better guidance as to like where they might go to school and what college is going to cost, then now we can make decisions from a position of strength. Now we can dump some more money into the 529s, those kind of things. So again, it's just creating that strategy, helping families to navigate. And for the advisors at the College Funding Coach, college funding kind of becomes that door opener. We're solving what is for so many families this number one financial fear. But because college is so expensive, you've got to look comprehensively, right? I've got to ask a family, hey, by the way, how much are you saving for retirement? What does your employer match look like? What do you have in savings? Where are all of the other assets so that we can help you make a smart series of decisions around college funding and all the other pieces in the financial plan?
Okay, so it's actually more than just paying for school, right? What happens when you help people figure out how they're sending their kids to college?
It's powerful. It's it is so emotional for families.
Look at your face light up.
Yeah, I mean, like it's just it's a real blessing for us to be able to empower and impact families in that regard, right? Like it doesn't matter to me if it is a first generation kid going off to school, which by the way, I'll tell you a cool story. I just talked to a young man the other day. I worked with his mom, single mother, came here from Guatemala, like was just so focused on giving her kid this American dream. And he did it. And he went to college and we figured out a strategy to be able to do it. It was a combination of qualifying for some need-based aid, getting some merit-based aid, mom's savings, etc. But he did it. He graduated. And then, by the way, second generation, I started working with this young man. I just talked to him 10 days ago. He is in business school at Dartmouth, at Tuck at Dartmouth, getting his MBA. And we've figured out how he's going to pay for his education. And look, there's some student loans involved, but how does he pay back those student loans? Like, that's awesome. But sometimes it's somebody who, this is the 10th generation in their family that's going to college. And that's okay too, because it's just as empowering and impactful. And so that's cool. But I think it's also, this is not just a financial issue. It is a financial issue because college is so expensive, but it's how does that kid and their family and their future family we're really changing the trajectory of that person's life. And then just being able to be a small part of that moving forward and seeing what happens. I mean, again, been doing this for 25 years. And so seeing what these young people go off and accomplish and do. And it's that ripple effect for all of our advisors at the College Funding Coach. I mean, at this point, we've done this for College Funding Coach was founded in 2002. So we've been doing it for 23 years at the time of this recording. And it is tens of thousands of families that our advisors have helped really all over the world at this point. That's awesome. And it's, you know, I ask parents all the time, what keeps you up at night? Right? What's the scary thing that's keeping you up at night, whether it's budgeting or college or retirement or whatever. But Wendy, I also have developed a second question that I think is even more powerful and that I like asking more. And I ask that question, and then I ask, and what gets you up in the morning? Because that tells me a lot about a person, right? Like, what's the thing that motivates you, that gets you totally psyched to get up out of bed and go face the day? What is your why? You know, what's the thing that gets you going? And you learn a lot about people from that. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we are running short of time. So, you know, I wanted to ask you, where can people get a hold of you? How can people get more information? How can they ask you more questions if they have some? Come on, Brock, spill it.
So I think I'm supposed to say you need to subscribe to this podcast because we've got a whole path built out here, right? So subscribe to the podcast, tune in here. The other thing too is if you are a parent who's sitting there saying, gosh, this sounds great, but this is kind of a 30,000 foot overview. That's okay. It's supposed to be a 30,000 foot overview. But what our advisors do is they work with families just like yours to sit down and to bring it from a 30,000 foot overview a little closer to ground level to help you look at your specific situation. And it's an art and a science. It's figuring out what we do from a financial perspective, from a strategic perspective, et cetera, to help you find those right schools, pay for it with minimal impact, ideally, on your ability to retire at the time and in the lifestyle that you want. And I think that's really the key here. So you can visit our website, which is just thecollegefundingcoach.org. You can, there's an area where you can learn more about our organization. You can schedule a consultation, or you can call us directly. And there's a toll-free number, which is 800-969-2362. So if you have questions, we'd love to help you. And always good to spend some time with you, Wendy. So looking forward to the next one as well.
Yeah, we will talk to you soon. So thank you for listening today. As Brock mentioned, please like, follow, share this podcast with your friends. Until next time, I'm Wendy McConnell.